am I going to do? See, in the latest curriculum that has been released over there, we find certain changes have been incorporated. The first thing that I would like to share with you, all of you have been seasoned teachers. We know we have been judging and evaluating every question on the basis of 3 basic parameters. We would call it FCE: format, content, expression. And expression was having 2 different modes of it. One was grammar, the other was the spelling part over there. But now, this year in the curriculum, there is an added 4th dimension or dimension which has been added to it. They're calling it the development of thought. You know, earlier, if the answers were not packaged properly, if there was no logical development as such over there, no proper orientation in the framing of the long answers, we could reduce at the maximum only half a mark. I mean to say, the cause and effect, proper organizing of the answer was not there. We could reduce only half a mark. But this time in the curriculum, it says it is giving 1 mark. Not only that, if you look at the literature part, henceforth, again, we are reverting back to the old method, whereby each question will be carrying the long question answers, 5 marks each and not 4 anymore. So there are certain changes over there. So I thought that today I'll try to talk it over with you as to how we should approach a prose answer so that it can help us. 1 second. It can actually help us get the children prepared for the forthcoming board examination. I tried to copy and paste from directly the curriculum which has come. But then again, I have tried to draw your attention to these things, like critical thinking, appreciating literary convention. This is something again new which we are seeing from last year. Genre-based question. Vijayalakshmi ma'am, do you remember we were talking about this in the last session? Towards the end of last year, we were constantly talking about this. Are you there? Vijayalakshmi ma'am? I think some technical issues somewhere. Others also, everybody will know. So we are going to highlight on the genre and other things, right? And extrapolative questions, inferential analysis, and everything that is related to literature. 10th standard question paper, all of you have seen it. Can you give me your estimation of your 10th board paper which they wrote a couple of days before? Can I have your estimation, please? All of you must have seen it. You have been handling 10th, anybody?
Yeah, the paper was easy, actually, not
at all difficult.
Very tough. Yeah.
Yeah, but long question answers also, we thought that it was a challenging paper. It should be exactly what a board paper should be, right? So
yes, definitely, definitely.
Beautiful
the long
paper.
answer, yes.
It was quite challenging, and it was, as we said, extrapolative. So
yes,
we are seeing that in the junior classes also, they are getting ready like that. So in 11th and 12th, we are definitely going to have a different kind altogether. So here we are for the prose, which I'm going to handle today. First thing that I get is that is extract-based questions. And MCQ, objective type questions, everything is allowed now. Earlier, those of us who have taught in the pre-COVID period and we had been regularly sending the board examinees, these kind of ERC questions would carry only 3 marks. Now it has been made into 6 marks. We have short question answers, 5 out of 6, from both prose and poetry, comprising of 5 into 2, 10 marks. And long question answer, any one they'll have to choose, and it is going to, as I told you, carry 5 marks. Now, I'm coming over to lesson specific. Now, why am I coming to lesson specific? The point is that, teachers, we have to change our strategy completely in order to help them write those long question answers. Long question answers, what we have seen in term 2 last year. I mean, they're yet to write the board examination on 13. They are going to face the gunpowder, if I may be allowed to say that. But the sample paper says it all. According to it, it's going to be genre-based questions, and the long questions are a little different. So while taking the lesson, the last lesson, I'm sure you will agree with me that we are talking about the role of teacher. Am I getting you? Please feel
Yes,
free
madam.
to...
Madam.
Yes, okay, thank you. The point is, we have to, I've given you certain materials over here, because in the last lesson, we find whatever is happening is not merely a political game. It is also, we understand that the intellectuals, to be more precise, the teachers are always the ones who frame the very foundation of any society. With their words, with their inspiring words rather, they are capable of molding the thought process of everybody around. So I have written a few lines over there so that you can agree with me that what is it. Please allow me to go along with it. Students aren't consumers of facts. They're active creators of knowledge. Schools aren't just brick and mortar structures. They're centers of lifelong learning. And teaching is recognized as one of the most challenging and respected career choices, absolutely vital to the social, cultural, and economic health of our nation. All of us have started with the portions. We know what has happened in the story. All of a sudden, due to the Franco-Prussian War, what we find is that highly patriotic Frenchmen have lost their sovereignty. And along with that, they have lost their individuality, unfortunately, because the victors, that is the Prussians, they are about to impose their German language onto these people. So what we find is this teacher, after 40 years of faithful service, while he is compelled to leave his job and move out of the country, he does his job even then. In a very emotional manner, he is able to instill and infuse, whatever you may like to use it. He's really able to change the thought process of that tiny little village, and from 8 to 80, everybody assembled in the classroom there on that day. Now, elaborately, why am I talking about this? Because teachers, when you're going over there, from tomorrow, what will happen is that tomorrow I'm going to really concentrate on how to prepare a lesson plan. And while preparing the lesson plan, teachers, we all know that learning objectives becomes the most important thing. So if we are quite sure as to which part we are going to concentrate and highlight, it becomes easy for us. So along with everything else, I'm going to, of course, this is my perspective, your perspective may be different. Please feel free to share that with me. I'm going to talk about the role of the teacher in molding the mindset of the people. He's choked with emotions. He simply writes on the board, Vive la France. But that is something that has molded the people over the years. That has been quite a heart-wrenching moment. After that, we are talking about linguistic chauvinism. We saw that in history. That was way back in some other century and much, much away from India. So what we have done is that we have taken over Bengali language movement as something which has occurred very much in our neighboring country in Bangladesh. These are all the kind of pre-reading settings that I'm going to share it with my students. I'm sure you will all agree, teachers, that after the COVID period, children, because they have access to the net, they are not only tech savvy, they have a feeling that they know it all. And because of their power to explore through the net. It is our duty right now to give them the right kind of direction. You know, I have personally felt that if I give them some task and say, come on, this is what is connected to it, will you be able to explore? Immediately, I find a shine on their eyes and the complete body language changes. Unfortunately, we English teachers know that their main focus is always on the core subject. And post-COVID, it has become extremely difficult to hold on to their attention span. So by doing all these things, we are able to actually hold on to them and cling on to them. So I am planning to talk about this as well. So teachers, tell me, how have you actually started this? Then we will slowly move over to the genre. I'm sure by now you would have guessed what I'm doing. Interdisciplinary learning has become one of the buzzwords in CBSE right now, based on which we have to eventually get them ready with the projects. Can you guess what we are talking about over here? Yes, anybody? We're talking about history, right? The other subject. This is how I'm trying to motivate them, compel my children to come over. I have given the links for you also, teachers, so that you can look at it and get ready with it. Teachers, there is no response from your side. Am I boring you?
No, not at all.
Then please tell me, Principal Ma'am, it's good to have you the first. Ma'am, this is what we can do. What do you say, ma'am? Can we?
Yeah, sure.
Ma'am, actually, I set them on a task to go and find out about the Franco-Prussian War, and they were quite excited. I mean,
Exactly,
having
ma'am.
the biomax students, I mean, they felt quite excited. They came back with photographs and stuff.
Exactly,
So I
ma'am.
think this is a good start.
Yes, ma'am. The new breed, if expected to explore the net, they are so happy about it, and they do a splendid job. So different things you can ask about Franco-Prussian War. That is history, but nevertheless, we are going into history again and again. And it's another lesson where we also get an opportunity to talk about the role of the teacher, that we don't merely impart and train them with the syllabus. That's not where our job ends. We have to ensure to make them truly patriotic and sensitized citizens. I'm sure you are all agreeing with me, teachers. Do we?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
And through this lesson, we do it. And why did I say this? Because in the learning objectives, which I'm going to do it tomorrow, and let me share it openly right now in front of you, that I'm going to definitely ask you to write a lesson plan during the examination and also in one of the assignments over there. So this is what we can do it over here. We are trying to tell them what is our objective. Our objective is to make them conscientious citizens of this country, and that too highly patriotic. And that's why we are talking about it. Now, Bhasha Andolan and Bangladesh, the genesis, everything I'll come back later. Please allow me, teachers, to take you quickly through my own PPT, where I have tried to cover all these things, setting the context, the title, and all those things. Interdisciplinary, I have told you, history. Neighboring country, genesis of Bangladesh. Okay, having said that, let me take you through this as well. International Mother Language Day. I've given the Wikipedia source also from where I have taken. On 21st February, to promote awareness of linguistic and cultural diversity and to promote multilingualism. And first announced by UNESCO. What is it and how it came? In short, teachers, I'm telling them the basic history over there. That on 21st February, after it got separated from India, it was still known as East Pakistan. Bangladesh hadn't come into existence. But then they strongly revolted against the very compulsion that Urdu will be the language for them. And so they started their so-called journey of independence. It took them pretty long. In 1971, eventually they gained their independence, but it all started with the assertion of their language identity, or if we were to use the words of the last lesson, searching for their own roots and identity. So this is how it had happened in Bangladesh. So with this story, actually, we can start, or as ma'am said, with Franco-Prussian War, we can start. In fact, as I have been telling you, it is very essential that we tell them stories. And stories will always cut ice with any age group. 17, 18 years, when they are listening to the story, if we tell them something Jataka tales, it doesn't help. So we have to talk about something which is real. We have to tell them something which they can refer back to. And that's what I always do in this particular lesson. I talk to them about the genesis or the origin of Bangladesh, which all started with the mother language. Over here, in this lesson also, we are talking about the importance of mother tongue, the importance of French for the French people. This is what the teacher leaves the message with. Fine. And after that, I have all these important aspects. You know, another thing which I have seen, which helped me, well, if I can quickly, theme, title, message, character sketches, I'll take you through my PPT, don't you worry. And the genre we have decided. What is this genre? We're talking about historical fiction. And I have always noticed, the moment I talk about Shiva trilogy, I don't have to say about Amish also. Children immediately, the Immortals of Meluha, and all those, they will 3 series and they will open up. Now, why am I doing this? Because history is taught to us so that we can learn our lessons from it. The last lesson, ironically, happens to be the first lesson for us in 12th standard. But in life, this is last but not the least lesson that we should really be endowed with. We have first to become truly Indians, and then only we should be able to make our places under the sun. Come anytime. India, with its multilingual, multicultural, and you know, there are so many things to divide us. But we have been able to retain our sovereignty, our identity with this very strong, secular, and very, very united front that we are taking. We have learned from our history. So that's what I tell the children. Don't take it merely as a story. You need to take it as a historic fiction, which is going to teach you an important lesson. Teachers, Sukanya ma'am shared with us what she was doing. Others, how did you approach it? Vijay Lakshmi ma'am, what are you giving them as the very setting? Please share. This is a platform, I always say, I learn so much from you as well. Tell me. Jain sir, Thomas sir, what is your approach towards it? Feeling shy to open up?
Ma'am, excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't want to hog the show, but one more example I would like to give here. Even before we went into the textbook, actually making them pre-read, it's by itself is a challenge. Okay, with my students. So actually, I went about asking each and everyone their mother tongue.
Yes.
Okay, we have an eclectic mix, and we have Kannadigas, we have Andhrites, and we have Marwaris. And when I just made a survey, many of them said, I can only speak, I cannot read and write. Yes. And then I asked, don't you feel the regret? Sometimes when I go back to Andhra, to my granny's place,
Ma'am, your audio feels
when I see my cousins, I feel that. But when I come back here, I don't. Then I asked, like, where do you truly belong? So that set them thinking. like
Yes,
not to
ma'am.
make them uncomfortable. And then I also told Reese, I just took up a family in the US, two
Hmm.
generations down the line, their children, they have to survive there. They are going to lose out on their mother tongue. So when I told that, they couldn't actually relate. But when I asked them, your grandmother was able to read and write your mother tongue. Your father is able to do. But where are you? Where is your child going to be? That made them brood actually. So, I mean, it was just
That's it.
to
That's
make
it.
the lesson more relevant actually. Then they started pre-reading the next day. Yeah. Thank
Ma'am,
you, ma'am.
thank you so much, ma'am. We definitely have a very heterogeneous group inside our very classrooms. It's a mini India every single day. There's such a wonderful amalgamation of all kinds of people, but eventually, because of this modern trend of English medium, they have completely been out of touch with their mother tongues. But that's so sad. That's why I'll take you through my project where there's a wonderful word by Nelson Mandela, sir, that he goes on to say that if you want to touch somebody's heart, you need to really approach in the mother tongue. Otherwise, everything goes cerebral. It's only through the brains, and with brains, people don't always work. We know that. So why am I doing all these things, teachers? As I told you, in the learning outcomes, I have to write over there that I want to not only make them appreciate the lesson, understand the content, but I also would like to develop them as truly worthy citizen of this country. If I have to write all these things, if CBSE expects me to really work with those kind of outcomes, LOs, then this is the way that we can only function. And of course, on a more practical ground, as Sukanya ma'am, principal ma'am, I'm sorry, I'm calling you Sukanya, how dare I? I'm so sorry, ma'am. It just,
I'm comfortable with Sukanya, seriously.
oh, ma'am, I have to give respect to your post, ma'am. Please, my
No, ma'am, I
apologies.
identify myself first as an English teacher. So please
A
give me
wonderful
that
human
privilege
being, ma'am.
in this training.
I'll try to
Please.
be a little more careful
Yeah.
in the future. Principal ma'am was saying, and I too am of the opinion that today's breed, they are very, very comfortable if we allow them to work on their own. We just have to give them the direction. Tell them, look, this is it. They don't like that typical teacher attitude. Children, this is what I'm doing. Open your book, read this, I'm going to finish it over. And do remember, NEP 2020 is being implemented in a phased manner. And there also, they are saying the same thing. We have to change and adapt ourselves with the changing requirements. And what is the requirement? The children are of a different orientation. And post-COVID, they know that on the net, everything is available. They think that they can be their own teachers. We need to break that myth and channelize all their enthusiasm, all their expertise in the right direction. That's my humble opinion. You can definitely differ with me. We have to help them. We will give them long question answers, short question answers, and share that also with you. So what have I done over here? Let me show it to you. The usual author's note, title, the justification or introduction. I tell them these days the visual impact is very, very important for them. So though I teach in the classrooms offline, but I do try to share all these things on the Teams platform with them. I give it to them. I say, this will give you, now here is what we are talking about: linguistic chauvinism, the undue pride in one's own mother tongue, and the Germans trying to superimpose themselves on a very naive community in Alsace and Lorraine. Human habit of postponement or procrastination, both children and adults. Now, if and only if I give this, children will try to analyze the lesson from these point of views. Why? And every time we can tell them, in this classroom also, don't try to superimpose any language on anybody. Similarly, the most important aspect is that learn to respect somebody else's language, because you want your own language also to be respected. It's as simple as that. Then procrastination. Children have the habit of it. They keep on dilly-dallying with the things and they take things for granted. If this lesson has shown us anything importantly, it's the very, very unpredictability of life from nowhere. When Franz says that it was a bolt from the blue, we actually understand this is what life is. When we least expect any kind of stress or tension, it happens. So we should give our 200%. That's what I tell them. Importance of mother language or mother tongue, and most importantly, their patriotism. And this is a movie actually on that, which I have shared. Vijay Lakshmi ma'am has seen it. I guess so. She's not here today. Fine. James sir, you wouldn't have seen it. Nelson Thomas sir, have you seen this? Have I shared this with you before? Manoj sir?
I think, no, ma'am. I did not see.
Okay. So I would just quickly like to show you. This is one of my favorites, and I know my children love it. It's going to take some time, but you can watch this. Can you hear it?
Yes, audible, audible.
Why aren't you in school, you little imp?
Oh, I'm too big to go to school. Besides, I don't know my lesson. Is there more bad news?
You'll find out soon enough. Now run along to school.
But Victor...
Never mind. Today you better be in school. There, you're late already. Now run, run.
Go to your seat quickly, Francois. We were beginning without you.
What's the matter with him today?
Come in, Victor.
I thought today you wouldn't mind if I...
Others have come before you. My children, this is the last lesson I shall give you. The order has come from Berlin that we are no longer to be French. After today, only German is to be taught in our schools. A German master is on his way here. And when he arrives, I shall leave. This is the last lesson in our own language. I want you all to be very attentive. The first form will begin with their letters. Ready? Abba.
Abba, over, ibi, obo, ubu, amma, imri, omo, uru, ada, idi, odo, udu.
Excellent.
Will they make them sing in German? Even the pigeons?
Let us go to the lesson on participles and infinitives. François. The rule for the participle.
When the present participle follows the verb
To be.
to be. When the present participle follows the verb to be, it is
You know it. I never could learn that rule myself.
it is
It agrees like an adjective.
it agrees like an adjective. And
You don't have to go on, François. And do not blame yourself. It is we, the older ones, who are really at fault. Every day we've said to ourselves, we have plenty of time. We can do it tomorrow. That was a great trouble with France. She has put off learning her lessons until tomorrow. Lessons far more important than the rule for the participle. And now it's too late. They have taken our country away from us. Madeleine, the German master will soon be here. You wouldn't want him to see you cry. We will not have our lesson in reading today, but you must go on with your reading at home after I am gone. Because when a people are enslaved, as long as they hold fast to their language, it is as if they had the key to their prison. I shall read to you some words that were written by Victor Hugo. As long as there is a Frenchman alive, these words will live. In times like these, let us not despair. For to despair is to desert France. The friends of our oppressors tell us that liberty is dead. Why do you cling to hope, they ask. Why, indeed? Have they forgotten that we're Frenchmen? That freedom is our birthright? That life without liberty is living death? From within the deep shadows of this present, watch the French people. Their leaders have mouthed the words of surrender, which find no echo in their hearts. They are silent, but each knows what is in the other's thought. On each man engraved the names of all executioners. They live for the day of reckoning, when truth shall return once more, and freedom renew her cry, calling the people of France to rise and sweep before them all the monuments and all the works of ancient and eternal despotism. within the deep shadows of this present, watch the French people. Their leaders have mouthed the words of surrender, which find no echo in their hearts. They are silent, but each knows what is in the other's thoughts. They live only for the day of reckoning, when truth shall return once more, and freedom renew her cry.
With these kind of materials, if we can search through, and if we are showing it to the children, and after that in the project last year, all of us more or less went for the a file wherein they have gone over an elaborate searching, and they have come up with their PPTs or their Word documents. On the whole, it was a research oriented work. But in the same project work, it is given that if they want, they can come up with their own dramas as well. So this year, I have told them that I want something. After all, we are still celebrating 75th year of India's independence. So based on that, if they can hold a story and script it, God willing and everything normal, we will have our annual day. Almost after 2 long years, third year this will be. So I was just asking them, and the children have shown interest, but yet we haven't started working on it, but we would love to. This would be a wonderful homage to our motherland. That is what we are planning to do. It slightly changing. And then we come over to this child's perspective. I tell them that sometimes the children know it better. They make them sing in Germany, the pigeons. What children can understand, alas, adults have not been. How well I remember it, that last lesson. He always thought, Franz, that he was not able to understand anything. But the moment he focused on that day, he could make it out so well. So very, very well. So I have tried to tell them in the classroom that your standpoint, your viewpoint, your perspective is really important, because you are the future citizens. And don't stifle yourself, don't really crush yourself, rather be open and air your opinion. And that is how they are actually liking it. If we make it a one-sided transaction, the learning, I'm sure you all will agree, we are not able to do justice to our profession or even to them, and we can feel that. So today's teaching is not less of a teacher, there is more a facilitator. You people speak. Wherever it's wrong, definitely I intervene. I try to tell them it's not okay. The last one that I have taken is that of the contrast over here. How the literary device. How is it you pretend to be French, but yet you can neither speak nor write your own language? This is precisely what Sukanya ma'am was sharing. 3 generations out there in states, and they have completely forgotten their roots. We are not really in for it. We cannot afford to lose our roots. In that case, the history might give us a very dirty, ugly resurfacing. We don't want that to happen. And again, uncertainty, the role of uncertainty. Who could have thought that Corona will bring a lockdown and we'll be at home and there won't be any board examination, even now, keeping fingers crossed. It's 40 years and uncertainty, everything can have us talking to you about. In short, teachers, what I'm trying to talk about today is tell you, if we are having a preconceived perspective that this is what I am going to find out from them, and for that, if I'm able to show them guidelines and tell them, you do it, you know it the best, only these 2 sentences, and you will find that you will be, in fact, you will be amazed, you will be surprised, you will be impressed by the kind of data that they are collecting. And then you only ask them to surf through it, go through to the storybook. If we are telling them go through the text, they make faces. They don't want to read the textbook over and over again. But if you tell them that, okay, we want something which will be exactly relevant to this, they're finding it out. And actually, as per the course of study, if you check, we get 5 to 6 sessions with every lesson like this. 4 to 5 sessions definitely. So within 4 to 5 sessions, we can definitely complete all these things. So for this kind of lesson, I of course ask them to surf through the net and come up with their own perspective. Tell them about the role of the teacher and once again remind them we have that onerous task, a tremendous responsibility on our shoulders because everybody is watching us. We can't afford to be slipshod. We can't afford to be a little loose also. And children, sometimes, or most often, they take the teacher's words as final. So the refresher materials, I would like to share that also with you, what I do. These are my question answers basically. And how do I teach them? I teach them by asking them to find out. Sometimes I give them like this. I'll give them 4 question answers. Exactly the questions along with the answers. And for every answer, I'll ask them to underline the value points and read out to me. Based on that only, we are going to evaluate in the board examination. So I tell them, for example, look at this. How was the scene in the school? Because when we go for the board correction, we say again, the content should be there. For short question answers, what is the content? The 2 value points for 2 marks question. So how do I ask them? First of all, before telling them that you should write 2 value points, they don't like it. So in the 11th standard, or maybe sometimes if I get the 10th standard itself, I start training them. Initially, I'll give them 1 or 2 questions and the answers. After dictating, I'll tell them, come on, find out what are the 2 value points. So here, what will they find out? That could be heard from the street on regular days. Today, Franz found it to be quiet and still, like Sunday morning. Point number 1. And to elaborate it further, no opening and closing of the desk, repetition of lessons and wrapping of the teacher's ruler. Classmates were already in their places. And here 1 point is missing. If it is anything, even the village elders were seated in the last row of the classroom. So what was unusual? What was different? So like this, initially, I tell them as an examiner, I'm looking for these kind of points. So you be examiner today and search for the answers. They write these 2. I say, what more could have been added? I tell them this. And then I say, suppose it becomes a 3 marks question or something is there. If you can add up something, this is the point. But 2 points need to be written. And the first point which you cannot afford to ignore is that it was as still and quiet as a Sunday morning. We definitely don't ask them to by heart these answers. But what we tell them is to understand as per the requirement of the question, they will be remembering the value points and accordingly answering it. The same way, teachers, I go over to the longer questions as well. And I keep them trained with it. Here, as you can see, I have the questions along with the answers and which I share just before the examination so that they can be really ready with everything. This is what I do. What do you do, teachers? To approach it? I can't be talking continuously. Please save me. Hello?
Yes, ma'am. I hear, ma'am. Hello.
Hello. You're audible to me, sir. Sir,
yes, madam. Now
this is something which is very relevant for us. I take this. This is the NCERT material.
Okay, ma'am.
And this is on the basis of which we are actually framing those kind of value-based questions. So cultural subjugation and linguistic chauvinism, impact on students. India is a multilingual country known for its cultural and religious diversity. patriotism and resistance, impact on students, all these things. We are community and solidarity. They have to have that fellow feeling. So all these things, I give this not as a notes. I just plant that idea and then ask them to really come up with their own interpretation on the in the light of this particular lesson. This is also something which I do. I have MCQ questions. I have all other things just to make sure. Teachers, if I may now quickly show you what these children have come out as a project. It's 510. This is the project that my student prepared on this. Mother tongue, the voice of the heart. As you can see, it's given over here. Janice Venolia is the name. She prepared it. And these are the things, because we need to keep them ready with this as well. There's something called student portfolio has to be prepared. And in the first term, we don't have project, but we have listening activity. So these kind of videos or some kind of an audio track, I necessarily play in the course of every lesson and keep them tuned into different kinds of pronunciations, so that on that particular day, when we announce the examination, children are a bit jittery. Sometimes I have seen, to my real, what do I say, I'm really upset to see some children whom I know they cannot make mistakes, they also end up making mistakes. After all, girls, we all know, the moment we utter the word test or exams, they're super nervous. They're not able to do it. So I train them in this manner, that listening activity will be there. We have to conduct it sometime in the month of September, October, and accordingly award them the marks. I'm sure you all know that this year there's no term 1, term 2. We have reverted back to quarterly, half yearly. We'll be finishing it off by January. Then we'll have series of revision examinations, and finally they'll proceed over to the board examination like every year. But then towards the end, the project that they have to prepare, CBSE never says that you cannot pick any lesson. They only say that guidelines based on something contemporary relevant issue. And this can be very relevant an issue. So they have, I gave them the guidelines, and based on that, this particular girl has talked about why the last lesson. She says after reading it and after going through it, as long as they hold on to their language, it is as if they had the key to their prison. This was the most motivational line for her. And this is what had triggered her to work or take up this particular lesson. The voice of our heart. Nelson Mandela, I told you, talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. You talk to him in his mother tongue, that goes to his heart. Yes, sir. We all know that, isn't it? Sometimes we see somebody talking our mother tongue, and I can tell you with all certainty, for me, sometimes I hear Bengali somewhere, I'll jump over. Even if it is in a mall, I'll just start literally sniffing around, looking for from where the voice had actually erupted. That's what mother tongue does to all of us. She's taken the hints, she's taken it over.
Yes,
she's taken mother language day, and then significance of mother tongue in education. Because as per NEP, they can start and they can continue. And we know right now engineering lessons are also being imparted in the mother tongue as per the new education policy 2020. Then instead of only taking Bangladesh, she's spoken about Sri Lankan civil war, Sinhalese and the Tamilian diaspora, how they suffered and what and all had happened. She's come over to even closer into the history, and we have tried to draw our biggest lessons on life from here. And then comes a TED talk, which I had insisted, merely referring to history won't do. You have to bring it over for us, some kind of a talk. And in the talk show, you know what I have always done for every student, whatever they find out, I make sure it is played in the classroom. This way, the child gets to stand in the center stage while she's presenting her own project over there. I am indirectly preparing the other children also with all different kinds of nuances of the language. Here is an African speaking English, but then you will be able to make it out that how children slowly get tuned into it. After all, language acquisition is all about exposure. The more we expose them, the more we open the floodgates for them, the more well equipped they become. There's nothing big deal in it. You just have to tell them these are the things. And unknowingly, if we say learn this, do this, go back home and learn it, oh my God, they will start detesting me. And I can't afford to do that. As it is, as I told you, every parent these days wants the children to be only doctors, engineers. Are you able to see this?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes,
this
ma'am.
is that
Now it's
project.
visible. Yes.
Give me just a minute. I'll start from the beginning. I'm so sorry you never got to see this. That's the blunder that I was making. See, even now it needs time, quite a few weeks out of practice with this. No, so this happened. I'm sorry.
You are not doing anything blunder, ma'am. Actually,
No, sir, I should know. Here's the project. Can you see it? Voice of the
yes,
Heart.
ma'am. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
by Janice Vinolia. This is what I was telling you. These are the different aspects of her project. And she goes on to talk about why she has taken the last lesson. And I told you a central line was this, which she has highlighted by changing the color. She says this is what had moved her. And then she talks about its necessity. And I read out to you Nelson Mandela's words. If you talk to him in his mother tongue, that goes to his heart. And then only all of us became a little sentimental and started talking about our own personal experiences. The Bengali language movement. Am I scrolling too fast or is it okay with you?
Yes, ma'am. That is okay. That is all right.
Then the significance of it, International Mother Language Day. Then significance of mother tongue in education. Then the Sri Lankan Civil War, as I was telling you. The newspaper clippings. And last but not the least, I was talking about TED Talk. These are very, very popular things on the net. And when we tell the children, instead of watching YouTube just like that, why don't you hit the TEDx? And look out for something which is relevant. And then, as I told you, I insist upon them to give us the link. Then with 40 children over there, I get 40 different experiences. And with 40 audio tracks, I try to play from time to time. Survey report. With the same lesson, there is another one where they have spoken about postponement. Okay. And this is finally her inference. This project has enabled me to discover new dimensions of our mother tongue, which I have never explored. Yes, our mother tongue is like a breath, keeps us alive. From the moment of birth till death, our mother tongue lives in us. It's rather a wonderful experience for me to come to know the real facets of our language, which has got embedded in our life like this.